Hello and welcome to our next video. In this lesson, we're going to seed the data so that we have some actual data when we run our project. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the seed data file and use that to seed out our data. So I'm just going to copy and paste this so that we don't have to type everything. And you can see that it tells you how to do this here already, and ultimately it's telling us we can do an add or update. And what that means is that when we add this information into here, and let me just take a step back for a second. As I copy and paste this, I hit Control Z to undo that so I can get my lines back. But the add or update, what it's going to do is as we add or update, if it's not there, it will add it. If it's there, it will just update to match the record here. And it will be using the ID as a key. And that's a good thing. So we have all this information, but we need to put some user IDs in here. So let's do two of them with the first user ID here. And again, I have not specifically verified that this is correct on the page, but I did get it from the database, so I trust that it is okay. And this is the one that we did verify on the page in the last video. So we'll put this for these two. So one person should be able to log in and see Spock and Captain Kirk, or Shatner and Nimoy. And the other person should be able to log in and see Scotty and Dr. McCoy, or James Doohan and DeForest Kelley. So that's what would happen in an ideal world. And we have our data seeded here, so it should run, right? So I should hit F5 and I should have data now that it's in the seed method. Who thinks this is going to work? Well, of course it's not going to, but I want to show you that. So let's go ahead and clear out a couple of these that we're already in. And this will load up the page, of course. It should stay logged in because of the session. I was already logged in before. And if it was working, we should be able to go to our contacts page and it should list out all the contacts. So let's try that and see what happens. All right, so there's our information from before, and it's going to the index and it's just running, showing our user ID. So it is definitely working. In fact, while we're at it, why don't we just take that breakpoint off so that we don't have to stop there every time. And there's our contacts with no information. Well, that's awesome. How come my seed didn't work? Well, when we set up our migrations, we never updated our database, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to wait until we had this data. So we do need to update our database in order to make sure that it takes those migrations. And we never set the migrations to work automatically. We have it still at false for our contacts web. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to our configuration here, and the very first thing we need to do is, of course, set this to true. We remember that from before. If we don't have this to true, it won't automatically do the migration and it won't work. Now the next thing we need to do is go back to Package Manager console, and we need to run an update database. So again, because we have multiple configurations now, what I need to do is give this a specific configuration to update. Is if we just try to run it, it'll probably tell us that there are multiple configurations and it won't work. Or maybe it'll run both. Let's see what happens. I'm guessing it'll tell us that it needs to know which database configuration to run. Yeah, more than one migrations configuration type was found in the assembly. Specify the name of the one to use. So here we're going to say configuration type name, and we're going to pass in, well, it looks like we still have it named configuration.cs. So if we had renamed it to contact web configuration, we would have needed to do that. We would have needed to say contact web configuration there instead of just configuration. And if we wanted to run the migrations or update database for the application DB configuration, we would just name that one. But what we see here is that it says it's running the seed method. So that's awesome. So before we even run it, we can go to our Server Explorer. We can then look at our contact web context, and we should have a contacts table here. And in there, we should have some data. Let's see if we do. We do. Our data is there. So our migration has worked, and it basically seeded the data for us, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and run it now again, and now we should be able to see the data. Let's get that off the screen. We don't need it. All right, so I'm logged in as one of my users here. So if I go to contacts, I should only see the one for my user, right? Who thinks that's going to work? Well, if you're guessing it's not going to, you're right, because we never told it what our user ID is. So it's going to show all of the contacts. But the good news is that our data was seeded and it is rendering on the page. So that's pretty awesome. Now I actually have contacts. I can drill in and look at the details. And I can see, if I want to edit it, I could actually go ahead and try to edit it. Now, again, please don't do this yet. You could probably get away with it because the user ID is right there. But you could actually modify someone else's data. Now, the really bad part is, if I'm not logged in and I'm just some random user who doesn't even have permissions right now, the way this is set up, I can see all the contacts. And in fact, I don't like you. I could delete your contact. That's really bad. We don't want that to happen. So we have data. We're rendering it on the page correctly. We have our migration set up and we know who the users are. So what we need to do next is set up our authentication, and we'll do that in our next video. But that wraps up our video on getting the migration set up and getting our data seeded for our users. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.